Miraculous Ladybug, Season 2, Episode 17, titled Reverser. It is a very interesting episode indeed, as it shows off very much, I guess you could say, a lot of the initial workings of Jeremy Zag, especially in terms of this showing off various sketches and illustrations and the idea of a Ladybug comic book. But that is for later. Let's get into the main crux of it now. We open with a young man, Mark. He's been shown in backgrounds here and there. However, this is the first plot line to actually focus on him specifically. He is a young author who has been inspired by these drawings of Ladybug and a formerly akumatized illustrator, now being the hero, the illustrator, as shown in these pictures that have been uploaded to the school's website. These pictures have inspired Mark to create stories that revolve around the pictures. Marinette is very interested in Mark's, I guess you could say, musings, if you would, and kind of tries to push him towards joining up with the, I guess you could call it an artist workshop of sorts, as she feels that he would fit in perfectly there with his creative mind, and has been pushing him to join for some time. Unfortunately, Mark is very shy and uncertain of himself, so he shies away from it for the most part. We then see the pictures that have been drawn by the person Nathaniel, who has been drawing these pictures of Illustrator and Ladybug teaming up to fight various forces for some time, although he can't seem to come up with a good story for it. Something of note is the person that Illustrator and Ladybug are fighting here. Anyone who knows anything about a lot of the background work, the behind the scenes stuff going on in terms of the Miraculous Ladybug stuff, should very well recognize the character they're fighting. And it's a bit of a spoiler for events to come. The teacher, who has a very, mellow and kindly vibe, one who very much believes that all forms of art should be accepted no matter what, tries to get Nathaniel to meet up with a author who can best match his illustrations. From that, you can basically tell where a lot of this plot is going. Ultimately, Mark does end up coming to the workshop to see what it's all about. However, shies away greatly once he starts to kind of get, noticed. Although once he catches a glimpse of Nathaniel's work, he goes on about it to an almost an obsessive degree, praising the work as it seems to be a bit of a muse for him. However, once he notices that he started to babble, he shies away a bit. Enter Chloe, who immediately begins to mock Nathaniel's obsession with Ladybug and tries to present her own artistic work, which is basically mocked by Alex, stating that it's probably a collage of her pictures of herself, which it ultimately is, and Chloe retreats. Although this throws a bit of a wrench into anything you might see in the future for Nathaniel, which you see later down the line. And once things are pointed out that, they want to see what Mark can do, he immediately runs away, unfortunately dropping his, I guess you could call it a notebook of all things. Marinette picks it up and finds out that Mark has been writing stories called the Journal of Ladybug. That, chronicles Ladybug falling in love or being starstruck by the illustrator and his abilities, and them, eventually teaming up and having, a very close relationship. She presents it back to Mark and tells him to try to pursue seeking out Nathaniel and them teaming up. She wants to kind of, you know, show it off to Nathaniel anonymously in order to pique his interest. She does so, and immediately Nathaniel is enraptured by the stories and could immediately envision all the goings on. He's consumed with an interest for who the author of this journal is, but Marinette tells him that they will meet together at a park nearby her house. As she observes the meetup, we see that Nathaniel actually believed that the diary, belonged to Ladybug herself, and thought he was coming to a meetup with his crush, only to be a bit heartbroken to find out that it was Mark, and believes it is nothing more than a mockery of his interest in her, not even believing that Mark wanted to create a comic book with him. He tears up Mark's journal, and this leaves Mark prone to Hawkmoth. Naturally, because you gotta get that monster of the week in there. And Mark, since he was portrayed as something he was not, becomes the reverser, who reverses the nature of things and turns them into something they are not. He has a vendetta out for both Nathaniel and Marinette, but Marinette manages to escape and become Ladybug. She tries to take down Reverser, only to have her, I guess you could say, agility and her coordination turned into clumsiness and a, very accident-prone nature. Cat Noir comes in for the save, only for his bravery and his, fearlessness to be turned into fear and, being unable to deal with overly exhilarating moments. He also causes a situation of sorts where he reverses the mayor's want to have, garbage that comes from around the city launched into space, which is very opposed by a mob, a protest of sorts. However, the mayor reverses it by sending all this garbage hurtling to Paris. Meanwhile, Alex is trying to talk some sense into Nathaniel, seeing as he didn't fully let Mark explain the situation, and even saying that Marinette is not one to, just go and have someone mock another person so easily. That's just not Marinette, which I enjoy. It's good to see the perception of Marinette's friends toward her, and she's seen as a very sweet and kind girl. Ladybug and Cat Noir enter the picture, trying to get Nathaniel to help them out. Reverser is kind of holding the mayor hostage, and the threat of garbage raining down upon Paris, and is willing to reverse his reversion in exchange for both Marinette Dupin and Nathaniel. They get Nathaniel to come along, but Alex comes just as a help, since Ladybug isn't as coordinated on her feet as usual. She brings out her lucky charm, which is in fact a bundle of bamboo, and sends up Nathaniel and Cat Noir to kind of placate Reverser and get him to, change the trajectory of all the garbage. We see this scene, which raises some questions. Don't show this to anybody out of context. It just don't. And while it is not in fact a scene out of BDSM, what with the young boy in a leather form-fitting suit, bound and gagged, blindfolded, and strapped to a cross. Ugh. It is in fact a kite, with Cat Noir's vision being blocked off so he won't cower in fear, and sending him after Reverser, with Alex kind of steering it. Cat Noir manages to take down the source of the Akuma, which is Reverser's glider, which is actually his book, and they are able to save Mark and get Mark and Nathaniel to reconcile, saying that there was a big misunderstanding and they should just talk things over because great things will come out of their work, namely a Ladybug comic book, which they both dedicate to Marinette, which is a big thing of note because anyone who has seen like the behind the scenes kind of beginning concepts for Ladybug knows that they started out as sketches of comic book covers done by Jeremy Zag. He had various comic book covers that showed off, a bit of mixture of Spider-Man and, Sailor Moon kind of things that, and to see Jeremy Zag kind of, his initial influence kind of showed off in this way is a nice little bit of insider stuff just for people who have actually gone through and being caught up in all the behind the scenes stuff for the Miraculous Ladybugs series. So I mean, that's the very crux of a lot of things that really made this episode fun. Beyond that, nice Monster of the Week episode. Nothing too grandiose going on here. The one thing I will note is the nature of Mark. I don't know if that was their full on intention, but it appears to be because Mark's character is kind of modeled in a way that is very androgynous. He is portrayed as a kind of effeminate looking, but still, perceived as male, at least for the most part. What pronouns Mark uses seems to be he and him, but there's no real emphasis put on it. And the whole situation between both Mark and Nathaniel, kind of give off a almost relationship vibe. Like there's the possibility for something more. I know that I haven't really gone into the shipping scene for Miraculous Ladybug, but I could easily see it kind of a bit of a romance being perceived by the fandom at large between these two. I could easily see that. But, a very cute character model. But, honestly, that's all I have to really say about this episode. Very nice and simple. Nothing too overblown or really important to talk about here. But, hey, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think about this episode? And what did you think about my thoughts on this episode? And if you liked any of my thoughts on this episode, leave me a like. If you didn't, leave me a dislike so I know where I'll stand with things. And subscribe for more Miraculous Ladybug. Thanks for joining me.